How hard is it to replace a McKinsey consultant using a chatbot? In this video, we're going to do it, and I'm going to show you why it's really easy to do, and also maybe impossible. I've been a consultant in marketing and data science and data analytics for my entire career, and I was inspired to put this together by a Harvard Business Review article from a few months back entitled, Can Generative AI Do Strategy? In this article, the professors who wrote it took a collection of MBA students and put them up against a ChatGPT-based chatbot to see which ones created the best deliverables, and discovered that the ChatGPT's powered deliverables were both on par in terms of quality and superior in terms of a couple of different aspects of the consulting practice. Here's how we'll do this in the video. I will firstly show you how to pick out a consulting recipe to use to power your chatbot. Then we will build the prompt that gets the chatbot going and test it. Finally, I will explain to you why, as far as consulting goes, these kinds of tools are both indispensable, but not necessarily likely to replace consultants anytime soon. This video is going to be for anyone who has an interest in playing with language models like ChatGPT and requires no coding experience. The authors in the HBR article were imagining a scenario where they were opening a bagel bakery in Paris. And for that, they chose the Blue Ocean Strategy framework, but they could have just as easily chose many other different kinds of frameworks. If you're a consultant, you almost certainly have your own recipe for guiding clients through a process. And if you don't have one or are just looking for inspiration, LLMs provide a great way to get the creative juices flowing. So you could take any of these ideas or strategy approaches, or dare I say fads, from the consulting world and asked the LLM that you use to come up with a consulting protocol according to that type of framework. And while it certainly isn't going to be what you want to use for everything, just right out of the box, could give you an idea for ways of approaching problems or something you might want to customize for your own purposes. For this video, I am going to look at a consulting recipe from McKinsey that was shared in 2022 on the former Twitter by Julia McDonald. And I like McDonald's framework because it takes clients and consultants through a prototypical exercise in gathering facts, brainstorming different approaches to handling the facts, and then articulating recommendations in a way that is designed to achieve impact with the client. I'll show you Julia's TLDR and my slightly cleaned up and sequentially ordered version of it. Looking at the sort of numbered elements here, the first three components of the methodology are to gather facts, develop a hypothesis around what could be causing the problem, enumerating all of the factors that might be causing the problem into an issue tree, so sort of doing what you might call discovery. The steps 4 and 5 include making sense of the map of information that you've laid out and coming up with a recommendation that identifies key factors of influence or leverage points in a situation to say, okay, if I'm going to address this one issue, of all the possible issues, this is going to have the maximum impact on improving my situation or achieving my goal. And then 3 steps around articulating the results in a way that the clients will get excited about, setting the stage with a solution, problem, question, answer framework for articulating thought processes, leveraging something called the pyramid principle for, again, explaining prioritization, and then finally doing an articulation of the impact of the result. So this is a good recipe for us to get started. It is logical, it's representative of a lot of different approaches, it's not too opinionated, and if you as a client were to hire McKinsey to come and address an issue for you, then they would send a bunch of ambitious young MBA students who, according to Julia McDonald, would execute some sort of protocol like this. I have a link to the tweet thread in the description below. You should definitely give it a read and see what Julia McDonald has to say about McKinsey's process. It's a great thread. So now that we have our recipe picked out, it's time to start building the prompt. And there's a few different ways that we could do this. Firstly, we could just copy and paste the thread into the prompt interface, and we could tell ChatGPT, you are now a management consultant, use this protocol. I wouldn't necessarily do that because I want to think carefully throughout the recipe that I'm actually giving to ChatGPT about what is the client experience going to be, or what's the user experience going to be as they're interacting with that chatbot. And so that merits cleaning up the prompt quite a bit to make sure that we're being as clear as possible and creating a positive user experience for the person who's interacting with Julia McDonald's ideas through the chat interface. So here's the prompt that we're going to give to ChatGPT. I have this text linked in the description below, so please feel free to click on it, copy it, and do whatever you want to play with it and modify it. There are 3 elements of this prompt that I want to draw your attention to that represent good prompt engineering. The first has to do with giving context to the LLM at the very beginning as to who they are and what the purpose of the exercise is going to be. So here we're saying you're a management consultant whose job it is to solve business strategy problems. I'm the client, and here's the protocol I'm going to have you go through in order to solve my business problem. The second element of the prompt engineering that I want to draw your attention to is how I'm explicit in the prompt as to the points of the interaction where we want the LLM to brainstorm different alternatives, coming up with different ideas about things to do or things to explain a problem or hypotheses and whatnot based on a given context. This is something that LLMs are really good at. And in the HBR article, it's one of the things that they praised the LLM as being able to do. So we definitely want to lean into that aspect of the LLM's abilities by making clear in the prompt when exactly we want it to perform that action. The final element of this prompt that I want to draw your attention to that's valuable is giving the LLM examples of how we want it to perform. So here under the issue tree section, we see how Julia McDonald would decompose a problem around the profits being down for a client. And that decomposition is the thing that we want the LLM to mimic as it's brainstorming and putting together this overall explanation of issues. This whole process of putting an example to the chatbot and saying, do it like this, is what is called few-shot learning in the prompt engineering world. And you're much more likely to get an output that looks like what you want it to be if you give it an example of the form that you want the bot to mimic. Now that we have a working draft of our prompt, it's time to take it over to our LLM, in this case ChatGPT 4o, and run it and see if it works. The industry is still figuring out how to develop best practices around testing prompts or production hardening it, if you will. Obviously, you want it to perform what you had intended for it to perform, and you also want, in the case of LLMs, to avoid wandering off in the wilderness of hallucination or just performing other weird, wonky behaviors that you don't want your client to have to experience as they're trying to get value out of your software. And I expect that if you take this prompt and run it yourself, you'll experience much what you're seeing here, which is something that works according to the McKinsey framework that Julia McDonald laid out. So let's talk about things that we could do to improve this. Firstly, it's written in a paragraph-based format, and that could still become confusing to the LLM. So writing it like more of a script of like, you say this, I say this, you say this, wait, I say this. That might have the ability to make it clearer to the LLM what you want it to do. Early versions of testing this, I discovered the LLM would just dump out all of the questions, which is not what you want to do as a consultant. So just being more clear, figuring out what clarity means for your LLM in context. Another thing that we could do would be to incorporate data analysis into the prompt interface. Right now, ChatGPT 4o can do data analysis out of the box. It can take a CSV and write Python code to analyze it and run that code and explain the results. So that's definitely something that's going to be part of a consulting engagement. Another thing that we could do is lean even more heavily into brainstorming. Like I said, I think that this is probably the biggest value add of sort of creative ideation, and that's certainly what they saw in HBR. And finally, and I say this with some reticence, but we could harden it into an app that basically is the McKinsey consulting app. The interface that ChatGPT provides that gives you the ability to sort of play around with the prompt as you're working with the answers seems to me to be a pretty great way to give you the flexibility to switch frameworks and tweak the framework or create your own framework or a recipe. So constraining those choices by building it into an app might seem the wrong thing to do, but maybe you have a brilliant idea for how this could be appified. So that could be cool. Another thing that we can do before I forget is we could have the app, the chatbot, create a deck. ChatGPT 4o at this moment has the ability to create a deck. I believe that what it does when you ask is it will write a Python program that uses a library that spits out PowerPoints. So you can totally do that. So we have picked a framework, we've built a prompt, we've put it into a chatbot to create our own management consultant chatbot, McKinsey style, and we've tested it. So does this look like something that could replace management consultants? Well, the answer is yes and no. I would say yes on the one hand, because a lot of the sort of bread and butter consulting work around organizing ideas and especially around brainstorming ideas, they can be automated because of LLM's ability to do its magic. And the brainstorming piece, I think, is particularly important when you as a consultant are being asked to come up with new ideas or deliver insights the client had not already thought of. But the part that I don't see being replaced anytime soon is one of the hardest parts of consulting, which is the soft skills required to actually get data access from the clients. Not all clients are like this, but a lot of clients have a difficult time delivering the data access that a consultant needs to do their job. And that could be data in the form of spreadsheets and databases, but it could also just be access to information and ideas and people that you have to build trust in order to have access to, even after you've been hired. And even though it's fun to watch LLMs do creepy things with language and imagery and video and so forth, I still haven't seen anything that might approximate the experience of building trust with a client as a consultant. And so this is all great news for consultants who are prepared to use these tools to automate repetitive parts of their job, but also enable them to lean into the soft skills that are the most important part of the experience for clients. Thank you for watching this. I hope it was helpful. If you want to do some more learning in this area, you should definitely look at the links below. They include Julia McDonald's threads, the prompt that I use, as well as the HBR study that inspired this video. And please let me know in the comments below what you would have done to make this prompt better or more interesting and powerful for your clients. Thanks.